Now calling to order the Lawyers Assistance Program Oversight Committee. And I will now have a roll call taken, please. And remind you, your mic, speak into the mic for those of you who want to speak.
Okay. Andrew Besser,
Here, present.
Larry Chung,
Yeah.
Not present for purposes of the.
Right. Right.
Kelly Condon,
Kelly?
Here.
Okay.
Justin Delacruz,
Here.
Tracy Lesage,
Here.
Terry Lewis,
Here.
Philip Spiegel,
Here.
and is Larry Chung on the phone, or he's just not here at all?
I don't think he's here.
Okay, so we have a quorum.
Okay. And for the record, just so the people are not in the meeting room, we do have Michelle and Jennifer and Donna in the office. I mean, in the conference. Okay. Any public comment? I was made aware a lady would want to participate in public comment and was calling in. Are you there? Public comment.
I am here. Thank you.
Yes, and you state your name and your comment. You're welcome to speak. We'll limit it to about 3 or 4 minutes.
I didn't realize I would be a part of it. My name is Denise Nelson. I'm with Claire Matrix, and we had been working with Michelle and team from the Lawyers Assistance Program on the implementation project.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Thank you. Are there any other people who wish to make a public comment or introduce themselves? Okay, having no one else, this meeting, my report's very short. We're just following up to having an implementation status check, really, more than anything else. We do have a quorum, so we can vote. And I'll just really kind of move over and move into the consent items and the minutes of the meeting of October 20th. You should have gotten a copy of those earlier. Any comments, edits?
There's really nothing to edit. They're really
Right.
bare bones.
All right. We have minutes from November 5th, the same thing. If there are no edits or corrections, I need a motion on both of those items to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Terry, Tracy,
I'll second them.
thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. All those in favor of approving the minutes of November 5th and October 20th, 2018, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Kelly, do I have your vote?
Okay, aye.
Okay, because you're one of the counting quorum members. Very good. Moving right along, we're going into staff reports.
Okay, that's me.
That's Michelle.
Can you all hear me on the phone? Try and talk right in here. Nobody said yes.
Are the phone people muted?
Yes, this is Andy. Hear you
Okay.
perfectly.
As far as recent developments, there isn't really anything very recent. Everything will really be covered in B on my progress report on the implementation of strategic plan and workforce planning recommendations. The only thing that I had thought we might need to bring up is we do not have meetings scheduled through 2019. So we can send out an email unless there is anybody who wants to express an opinion about when we should be doing this. In 3 months, I'm assuming, would be the next time.
Why don't you
Do
send
we
out
save it to the end?
Yeah, send it out. It's
Okay,
probably
I'll
the
email.
easiest way.
So you all could have gotten from the website, the attachment to the agenda, or if you're here in person, Jennifer has some copies of the update on the implementation of the strategic plan and the CRIL recommendations and workforce planning recommendations. So this is the same document that was attached in, I think, the September meeting when I presented the update last time. And this has noted on it some areas that say February 2019 update with some new information. So I'll just highlight for you the things that I literally highlighted on mine. Number 4 is, the topic is eliminate the evaluation committee. So just to give those of you an update who aren't really so intimately involved in the day-to-day working of the LAP, we've really been immersed in this new process. It's definitely been more efficient, financially more efficient, of course, but also we're really able to be a lot more flexible with scheduling people for their meetings when we need to, since now we're scheduling every other week. The clinical review team is meeting with participants, but we've also been able to stick in some others in the weeks in between if there's somebody else we needed to meet with and talk to. So it's been really great that we've been able to address stuff quickly for people rather than, I don't know if you remember in the old way, we sometimes had to wait a month or longer between when meetings, EC meetings were scheduled. So since the last time we gave the update, of course, we had our public comment period, which ended. The Board of Trustees approved this change to the state bar rules in November. So this is done. We've made the change and it's going really well. Questions?
I don't know if this is the right time, but the last time I was able to attend the meeting, I had requested that we have a presentation from the contractor that we have that's doing the orientation at the schools. And
Oh,
I also requested that I be able to attend one so I could actually see process, and I never got any feedback on either one of those.
she's,
Go ahead.
yeah, she's not a contractor. So you're talking about Lita, who is doing our outreach and education, and she wanted to be here today, but she couldn't actually come to the meeting today. Tracy actually got to see her present. If you want to give a little
I thought it was
update
great.
on that.
I'm a public defender in Orange County, so I think through our Orange County Bar Association criminal practice section, had her come in. And I think it was not even a month ago. It was in the courthouse, well attended. I thought it was a great presentation. It was interactive, which I really was good. You used your phone, so it was anonymous, so you could answer stuff. So you could kind of, you could get see what other people thought without knowing who. Although I put spin on there, so they all said it was me because I'm a spin nut. So I was like, it was like, what do you do to relieve stress? So, or I put yoga, I can't remember. But it was a very good presentation. Part of it too, there was a lot of videos in it, and actually I was surprised, and actually it made the presentation even that more powerful. They had statements from other practicing attorneys in Orange County that were recovering that I didn't even know, but I knew them, so it was really powerful. I had nothing negative. It was really, really good, and the feedback I got from all the attorneys there is that, you know, a lot of who didn't know what the program did now know, and most of the people there said that they would definitely share that information, or if someone needed help, now they have all these resources, they would definitely share it. So,
This is Andy speaking. If someone is speaking, I can't hear them at all.
sorry.
You have to put it
I,
right up
I
to
can't
your,
hear anything either.
yeah, you
Oh,
gotta
and it
put
was-
it right, put it right up to your mouth
Can
like
you-
that.
And it was
Well,
all
I'm
good.
just
I hear
gonna do an
Andy.
abbreviated version, but
Yeah, I really hear you, Kelly.
I was just giving some feedback on Lita's presentation that I saw in person in Orange County. I'm not going to go through everything I said, but it was very, very good. It was interactive, had videos throughout it. It gave a lot of information about the program. There were handouts. I mean, I was very impressed. I was proud that I was part of this group, actually. So.
But I think for Terry, we need to make sure that she connects.
We're not hearing anything again.
Hi, this is Terry Lewis, speaking. As many of you know, that I really pushed the whole outreach and education piece. So Tracy was giving a little update on one of the presentations that she was actually able to attend. And I'm just really glad that it's going good, because I think one of the things that we were lacked in when we started with the street strategic plan, we didn't have a platform to outreach and do education. So I'm just really happy, that it's going very, very, very well, and very, very pleased about the components that she's added into her presentation, including the videos, the anonymous surveys that she's able to gather information from, and that you're getting positive feedback from other attorneys. I think it's a great thing for LAP. Very, very, very good. I'm very impressed. My soul is warm. I feel warm and fuzzy about it. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
This is Andy. I have a question. How many people has Lisa touched as far as outreach and education? Do you have an idea? I'm not hearing anything. Again, this is Andy. We are not hearing anything.
How about now? Is that better?
That's the first thing I've heard since I think Terry spoke.
Okay. Okay, right here. So on number 6 on here, so this was in response to your question about the number of people that she has reached, and I don't have the number with me of how many people have attended the presentations. On number 6, this is the topic, this is the item of use data to evaluate the LAP, and so one of the things on here was to collect the numbers of presentations she did. And this is looking forward. These are our goals for 2019 that I'll go through that we've developed that are on here. But I have a note to tell you about the 2018s. We had a target of 8 presentations to law schools for the end of 2018, which actually Lita needed to complete before the end of November since she was going out on leave. And she met and exceeded that. She visited 10 law schools or made presentations at 10 law schools. I think one was a virtual webinar type of presentation. And on here we have for the target for 2019, which is C3, to complete 20 law school presentations for 2019. And so she's already getting started to reaching out to schools and setting them up for this year. And 10 Bar Association and law firm presentations for 2019. So she'll be doing both. We didn't actually have a target of law firm or Bar Association presentations for 2018. So I don't have that exact number, but I know off the top of my head, it was about the same. It was similar. It was about 10 also that she did for those.
Do we know what law school she spoke at?
I do know. I don't. Yeah, I didn't bring it with me. I do know it though, if you want me to send it to you. So, okay, so going back to define the data points to collect is 6A. Yeah.
Maybe what we could do is, if Lita has a schedule for upcoming law school visits and Bar Association and firm presentations, if she can just send out, if you could send out that schedule, just so to the full committee, so the folks just know sort of what's coming up, that I think that'd be great.
Okay.
Good point.
Okay. Okay, so the update for February 2019 is in section C. So number 1 on here, we have a target goal set for 2019 to increase intakes by 10% by the 4th quarter of 2019. We have a target to respond to 100% of the requests for presentations within 2 business days within the first quarter of 2019. So what we're looking at already is, yes, we, and specifically Lisa, has been able to respond within less than 2 business days, actually. 3, this is the one I just talked about, to complete the 20 law school presentations and 10 bar association or law firm presentations in 2019. And then 4 is that 80% of participants will respond to our quarterly satisfaction survey that they agree or strongly agree with the statement, the information and services provided by LAP effectively and appropriately address my goals, and overall I'm satisfied with my LAP experience. And that's related to Patrick Crowell's recommendation to be more consumer-focused organization and to be focused on the experience and the needs, satisfaction, for lack of a better word, of the participants. And so we'll be looking at that through 2018, but we have our survey up and running. We had it for the last quarter, so we have the data from the fourth quarter of 2018, and the target was over 80%. And for that first statement, we had a response rate that 91% agreed that the information and services effectively and appropriately address the goals, and 88% agreed or strongly agreed that overall they're satisfied with their LAP experience. So we thought that was excellent, especially since it's not a mandatory survey. So, you know, when you're responding to surveys in your own life, probably you're more likely to respond when you have something negative you want to say and complain about, rather than just saying everything is happy and good. So I think these are really good statistics here. Questions? All right, the next one I will highlight is 8. This is a little more information actually about what Lita is working on besides going out and actually making the presentations. Is we are doing the targeted outreach in different areas. 8 is related to issues related to aging or cognitive decline, and 9 is solar practitioners. So there's different targeted groups. So on C2, one of the updates that we added as a goal was for her to develop a letter to bar associations indicating our availability to do presentations on these different topics. And so, so she's drafted that letter, and she's also started reaching out by phone and talking to people from the bar associations, and especially focusing on those in rural areas and more isolated areas, because that's something we had talked a lot about too, is how to reach people that are not in, you know, San Francisco, San Diego, LA, and talking to them about how they're reaching their membership. And so she's going to be doing webinars, and I think there's one county bar association that had said that they actually draw in a couple dozen people for one of their meetings, and so she'll be able to go and talk to them in person. So those are both in progress here as the update. And similar in number 10, we added that goal of proactively distributing the flyers to the law school. So, of course, as we talked about, she's going in person and talking to them. And she developed a flyer that she's bringing when she goes to the schools that they can post outside of a dean's office or in the law library, so that students will see in places where they tend to congregate information about the program and how to contact us. And then the next step is reaching back out to those schools and that she did not in person, have an in-person visit with and send them those flyers and materials. Comments? And let's see, that was, yes.
It's really just a question. Does the bar have a separate, not organization, but a separate sub-component for lawyers that are retired?
Not that I know of. Retired, like an retired lawyer?
Retired attorneys,
sections
yeah.
type of,
Thank you.
Number 12, there's an update there, which is basically referencing back to 6, which we already talked about, is the data collection that's ongoing. And then the rest is really going to relate to what we talk about the rest of this meeting today about the Appendix I topics. Number 19 has this meeting on it as an update that on February 15th, the Oversight Committee is going to talk about options for contracting out our obligation or assigning to another entity what we do. So perhaps that would be a good segue into our next topic. Yeah. So this is business item A. And really the topic here is, like I introduced in the last part, is talking about the work that we've done so far on the Appendix I implementation, the conversations we've had about where we're going to go from here, since the Board of Trustees recommended that we separate into two different entities. There will be the part of the LAP that stays with the state bar that is focused on discipline, people in the discipline system, and moral character. So those who are required, for lack of a better word, we've been calling them the mandatory participants. And then separating off the, what we're calling voluntary participants in the LAP, who are those people who right now are in our support program, the transition assistance program, so those who are just having the brief counseling or career counseling, and those who are coming perhaps because they do want monitoring, but they're not required to be here. So for their employer who might want them to be monitored, or if they expect that one day they will have some discipline or that moral character will be looking and they want to start making a track record of their sobriety or recovery, to start monitoring their urine test results and meeting attendance and things like that. Do you want to? So the question for the committee is to discuss your opinions of how we should best go about doing that. There will need to be statutory changes made. As you know, the program that the Oversight Committee is defined in the statute, and so is the just the existence of the program. So there are different approaches that we could take for this process. One would be that the state bar retains the obligation, as we have, to run this program and then contract it out to somebody else, or the statute can be changed so that the state bar no longer has the obligation for this program at all, and that it will go to another external organization or entity.
Any discussion on that? Kelly, Andrew, Justin?
Yeah, this is Andy speaking. Contracting out a portion of, LAP's current duties, I think makes sense. I don't believe that LAP right now, as it exists, has the bandwidth to handle everything that needs to get done, with the sheer number of law schools and, possible contacts, law firms, bar associations. I think Lisa, as the outreach and education person, is doing an amazing job. But I think to have a sort of an ongoing presence and an ongoing awareness of what LAP can do with respect to attorneys and well-being, it can't be sort of a one and done thing where she's touches each law school once a year. I think we really need to have something ongoing that makes schools and the lawyers out aware of what's on offer, in light of what Patrick Krill's report has concerning the number of attorneys that have issues.
So you're saying that
finding a partner, I think, finding a partner that can increase what the level of what we're doing, or what you guys are already doing, to increase the number of people using what's available.
Well, I think as in medical schools, some of the law schools,
You gotta speak right in, you gotta have right
some
into
of
your
the
mouth.
law schools are incorporating in their information.
I can't hear you, Stuart.
No, that's Phil. Phil, you gotta put this thing right up to your mouth. Pull it over here.
Andy, hi, it's Philip Spiegel, if you can hear me. It's my understanding that some of the law schools have in their curricula now, they have time set aside for basically like coursework, seminar.
I can't hear you, Phil.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
100%.
Okay.
Yes.
It's my understanding that as part of the law school curricula, in many instances, they're now incorporating informational studies about LAP, about substance abuse, as they do in medical schools. Not all the law schools are doing it, but many of the major law schools are doing that now. So there's an ongoing dialogue with the students.
Great. Glad to hear that.
So this is Donna. If I may just make one clarifying point, I should not have eaten a potato chip right before I said that. So just to respond to what Andy was saying, I want to be clear that we're not looking at supplementing the work that the bar would be doing for this voluntary side of the program. The question before you all is sort of what's the best way to carry out that voluntary side of the program? Is it through contracting out? And Michelle can talk about a conversation that she and I had with the Claire Matrix organization, or is it by lifting out, so the obligation would belong entirely to another organization. It wouldn't be a state bar obligation that we were contracting with someone for the delivery of the day-to-day service. Michelle and I can update you on a conversation that we had with the California Lawyers Association for sort of that kind of model. But in either of those models, we wouldn't be doing the outreach anymore because the focus of the LAP work that the state bar would be doing directly would be on the quote-unquote mandatory side, and we need sort of less outreach. We're not worried about utilization in that instance. So I just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page on that.
Got that, Abby?
Yes, got that. Thank you.
Go ahead, Michelle.
So somebody should be on the phone from
So
Claire.
why does outreach, is the expectation then that the contract provider would also be doing outreach?
They would be doing whatever they felt was appropriate to carry the program. If we were to have, well, I think in either scenario, they would have some independence in how they choose to run it. We would either be having a contract from the state bar to do those services, and they would, I suppose, have to meet whatever requirements we have now that would be similar, including outreach to the same sorts of populations, to law students and to senior attorneys and to new attorneys. But in either case, it would be somebody else running the program that would have some autonomy in how they would go about doing that. Does that answer your question, Kelly?
A little bit. In some ways, I guess I see it as two separate things because marketing and outreach is different from providing the services. So it might change who you end up contracting with, where you could end up contracting with an organization that does services, and then I'm not sure why there couldn't still be some administrative people that are going to have the oversight and the monitoring of the contract, and an outreach person who does that. I'm not sure why it has to be everything.
Well, I guess that's something that is why we'd have this conversation, right? Is to talk about how you think that would be the best way to go about it. We've done some looking at what our options are for what the organization or group would be that can take over the quote unquote voluntary. And I always want just to say in quotes, because I know the people who are in the program now are voluntary, even if they are part of the discipline system or moral character. But for our future group of voluntary program, and so there have been some different ideas that we've had of where to look, and also of people who have contacted us with groups who they think that they could meet this need. And so that's why somebody from Claire Matrix is on the phone. I can give them a little introduction, although maybe since they're here, they can speak for themselves. But in my full disclosure, in my previous life before the state bar a long, long time ago, I worked at Matrix, and so I know the Matrix part of the program, which is the substance abuse treatment, which it was, in my opinion, great as a treatment program, but they've really evolved since I've left and merged with Claire Foundation that does the mental health. So they're able to offer services on both sides, mental health and the substance use disorders. And so we talked about them about what they could offer. And Andy or Denise, I know you both have been involved in lots of conversations about this. If you want to jump in here with any comment.
Yeah, this is Andy. I'm familiar with Claire Matrix. That's a nonprofit that's been around. Claire's been around for 80 years, and Claire Matrix, not so long. They just merged. Matrix and Claire merged, but they've been doing addiction treatment for 30 years, and they have the Matrix program is a federally acknowledged evidence-based program, and they have 200 employees, and they're nonprofit, and they have the capacity to sort of handle all the outsourcing of sort of everything that LAP needs, whether it's the mandatory portion, quote unquote, or the voluntary. They, I think, would be interested in making a presentation to the group at some point down the road. They weren't on today's agenda, so but they prepared, sort of a proposal of the things that they could offer, and just, as it probably would need to be bid out, however that sort of thing works with the state. But as an organization that's interested and capable of providing the services that LAP needs with respect to even outreach and education, they have the bandwidth to do that.
So I would concur. This is Denise Nelson. I'm the Chief Development Officer at Claire Matrix, and I want to thank the team for sharing some of the insights. We would welcome the opportunity to talk a little bit about the way that we could provide comprehensive services, both through assessment, the mandated participants, but mainly around the voluntary participants. And have really shaped something that I think is based a lot on what we've heard from the team, what we've gleaned through our own professional experience in bringing the Matrix model as a wellness program around the world, and would love the opportunity to walk through sort of the proposed we feel that we could provide and help to address the sort of large need within the attorney community and the state bar's addressing of it. Hello?
If anybody's speaking in the room, we can't hear you.
Hang on, let me just. Can you hear me now?
I'm terribly sorry.
Can you hear me?
No, we could hear you, Denise, but now we can hear you.
Oh, now you can hear me?
Okay.
You can hear me
Yes.
now?
Yes, and I presume you heard us.
Commercial. Okay, so to that end, what was that? We would love to have Claire Matrix do a presentation, and we'd love to have it the sooner the better. And we haven't decided when our next meeting is, but maybe we should shortly thereafter figure out when our next meeting is, and so we can get this moving in the right direction as fast as possible.
So may I suggest, Stuart, because part of what we're doing here today is developing a recommendation for the board to consider at their March 15th meeting on the contract out versus lift out option. And so as part of that consideration, I mean, we did notice that we were going to be discussing the Appendix I implementation plan. And so, I think it would be totally appropriate within the confines of the Bagley-Keene Open Meetings Act for Denise to give you a sense of, whether she wants, how she wants to do it. It's certainly up to her, but to give the committee a sense of, this program that they think that they would be able to deliver.
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. You got that, Denise?
Oh, wow.
If you're not prepared,
Michelle,
you're not prepared,
I don't know.
but I mean,
Well, there's I think there's a PDF that Michelle may have that has actually the whole sort of a layout, because I've seen it and it was too late to get it on the agenda. So I don't know to what extent it was disseminated.
It was not shared with Michelle. We were unsure that that would be what was needed. I know that there's opportunity for me to pitch, and I'd be happy to, but it does feel that it might be more beneficial for the committee to see the document that we have, be able to review it prior to us doing
A
as
presentation.
and brief of a presentation as possible.
All right, so let's maybe get things a little bit out of order here. The meeting for the Board of Trustees is when, Donna? March 15th. It's Friday the 15th. Okay, great. So we need to meet as a committee as a whole with Denise Nelson for a presentation prior to this.
Well, but the recommendation, my understanding is not about who literally would be doing the work. It would be more of a concept of how we would go about approaching it. So
Is that
it doesn't.
correct?
Well, so the presentation, the decision that the board is going to be making it will be whether to go with the option to contract with an organization or to lift it out, to give the obligation to another organization. I think when we had the initial conversation with Claire Matrix, what made sense is they or other organizations like them would fall into the contract outside. And so to the extent that you want to make a recommendation to the board in terms of should we go contract out or lift out, if some information from Denise will help you figure out which direction you want to go in, keeping in mind that if we contract out, we're going to do an RFP, and Claire Matrix would be on equal footing with anybody else who might apply for that.
Correct.
But if that will help you make the decision on should we recommend a contracting out route or a route where the obligation statutorily belongs to somebody other than the state bar, like a California Lawyers Association, then you would want to have that presentation from Claire Matrix before March the 7th.
And in
So did the
either
board- this
scenario,
is
do you
Justin.
need a legislative fix?
Yes.
Because it just, to
You
me,
got to
it
speak
just
into the
seems-
mic. Speak.
Can you hear? I just turned it on.
I think the key is they turn themselves off.
Yeah, they do. Can you
Yeah.
hear me? Maybe. Yeah, I
Yes.
can hear myself.
Yes.
I was asking whether we need a legislative fix in either scenario, because I feel like we're working kind of backwards, because are they going to look at the recommendation and then decide how to propose the amendment to the statute, or that's what I'm unclear.
Yeah, and they actually, I think, can be looked at as two separate processes. Right now, we're putting together sort of two different drafts of legislative language because we need to start having conversations with the legislature.
Right.
And so there would be one version
Right.
on the contract out and one version on the lift out to another organization. So once the board makes its decision, we're prepared to indicate to the legislature which version makes sense.
And the money's the same on both?
So what we're doing on the money is doing an analysis on what do we need to maintain in-house in order to operate the part of the program that we're keeping. The rest of it would be available, with the exception of the money that's already distributing to the other bar. The rest of it would be available for contracting out or for providing to another entity that would handle the service. So we're really looking at what would be necessary to provide those quote unquote mandatory services, and we're looking at it in the context of sort of moving toward a drug court model, if you will. And sort of having so we looked at National Association for Drug Court Professionals staffing standards to have do some of that analysis of how many staff would be needed, looking at the statistics on how many participants fall into that quote unquote mandatory categories based on our 2018 numbers.
But we're only talking
So
about
I think
the
along with this,
voluntary
we're also,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Kelly.
I was just going to say, so it sounds like for us even to make a recommendation that in alignment with what's being said, we're going to need information about impact on staff with both options, staff needed, and then the questions about costs and, what type of service range do you get for those type of costs? Because we may like one option, but then the cost of that is not going to be within reason to get the type of services we want. So I think before we can really advocate one way or the other, we're going to need all that information.
I agree. That's why I was asking too. I can't, how can we decide reasonably which option? We don't even know what the breakdown, what the impact will be, or what, Claire Matrix can provide. We don't even know if we have the money to pay them for it.
Those are points well taken. I think the bottom line, we need
So,
to, go ahead, Kelly.
I was just going to say, I would still say that a presentation from them as an example, it'd be helpful because it would kind of orient us to things to think about, and then kind of know, I don't know what they'll say in terms of price. We can at least know in terms of, what's the range of cost for something, which would help. And I turn it over, so.
All right, so I have a thought here. Donna is trying to guide us that we need to make a decision whether we want to lift it out or keep in and contract out. Those are the options, okay? And I don't know what conversations you've had, Michelle, and staff have had about lifting out or contracting out. Have you had discussions on those issues?
Yes.
And what are those discussions?
So there have been other, when I said that there are other groups that we've also talked to who would be interested, we can talk about California Lawyer Association. So for those of you who remember this a year ago, when the State Bar was separating the section, or over a year ago, the sections from the State Bar turned into the California Lawyer Association. And so they are no longer part of the State Bar. They're separate and affiliated in the sense that they still get some funding from the State Bar that comes from the licensing fees. And so that has been floated as a similar model that could happen here, is that the California Lawyer Association would be able to also get some of their funding from the licensing fees that we collect that are earmarked for the lawyer assistance program, and take the responsibility for the voluntary types of services. So they don't have anything right now. They are interested in developing some wellness programs, and they are open to offering them to all of the attorneys and law students, not just those who are members of the California Lawyer Association. So they'd be able to serve the same kind of population that we do now. But it would be developing a new program there that doesn't already exist.
And so we had preliminary conversations with key leadership at the California Lawyers Association, and they have certainly expressed an interest in talking further about what this would look like. And they're going to be having discussions amongst their board, but there was so the executive director was not in a position to make a decision herself, but she said that it would be fine for us to tell you that we had talked with them and that they are interested in this proposal. Michelle and I talked with her about all of the aspects of the current program, the transition assistance services, sort of everything that we do, and talked about, ideally wanting, and the outreach, and wanting them to tell us that they were going to be able to do all of that. And as Michelle said, one of the key things that we wanted to ensure was that for the services that we currently provide through the Lawyer Assistance Program, that they would offer that to the same pool of people that we do now, that they wouldn't limit it to those who were members of California Lawyers Association. And it seemed like it hadn't even crossed their mind that they would so limit it. So they were certainly prepared to say that, yeah, if this is something that they take over, that they would be that they would most certainly offer the program to everybody that we had offered the program to, and it wouldn't be limited.
Excellent.
So that would be more of the lift out model. Somebody else would be taking responsibility for it, and they would basically take what we have now, and they might literally take the model of what we're doing now and just run it over there under that umbrella of California Lawyers Station Association rather than the State Bar of California. And the contract out would be if there were a group like, and I have not found yet, they may exist, but we have not found a statewide agency that would be able to provide all those services across the entire state, the mental health services, the professional monitoring services, the parts with the transition assistance like the career counseling and the substance use treatment. So there might end up being more than one contract in different parts of the state if we are doing a contract.
Terry, you have a comment?
Hi, this is Terry. The part that I'm concerned about is continuity. If this is going to be a warm handoff in which we take certain components and let those particular components become a smooth part of the process, that piece concerns me. And I hope that within the process we have a transition team so that no matter which way we go, there's a safety net for our clients. So I just like to make sure that whoever does a presentation includes a component for continuity of care and how we are going to hand off each component. Because in one respect, we're talking about outreach and engagement, but in the other part, we're talking about wellness. And that has to be continued on a platform where it doesn't, impact the services that we're currently providing.
So a couple of things, is that on? A couple of things that that Michelle and I talked about with the California Lawyers Association were, wanting to see if there would be an ability for us to just transition, for example, the LAP hotline phone number over to an organization that takes over the program. But there are various things out there in the world that have our hotline number on it, and ideally, anybody finding a Post-it note would be able to call that same hotline and go directly to the new entity. They welcome that kind of suggestion. We talked about the current group facilitators that we use, and suggested that they could continue with the current group facilitators, and in fact, we could both use the same groups. So they would use those group facilitators for the quote unquote voluntary side. We would use them for the quote unquote mandatory side. And so as a result, you'd have the same mix of people in the groups, those who have discipline issues, those who have yet to have discipline issues, and we'd already have the group facilitators in place. So that was certainly one of the things that that California Lawyers Association seemed very interested in not changing the way that we do things, and wanting and being very excited that we did have sort of good structures in place that they could steal from us in a very good way, in a warm handoff kind of way.
So I think what we need to stay focused on, we're charged with this before the 15th to make a decision whether to recommend to the trustees whether to contract out or lift out. And so how do we make an educated decision on that? Because we've got a very limited period of time between now and the 15th. And you're saying, Donna, we need to respond to them by the 7th?
Yeah, so any, the agenda item would need to be posted March 8th. So at the very latest, I would need to be able to craft the recommendation from LAP Oversight Committee to throw into that agenda item, no later than March 7th.
Okay, so that being said, that we have basically 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks to get our act together on this and make a decision. And so we have the California Lawyers Association, right? And we have Clara Matrix that we'd like to hear from. What's the best way to have them? Do we need a meeting and have them make a face-to-face presentation, or can they submit stuff I'm asking everybody what they want to do. Hello? So what would you like to do? I mean, it's so important. I'm happy to call them, schedule a meeting. We can do that. We could do it by mail and email and send out presentations and have everybody review it and get back, and we can take a poll and figure out how we want to go forward. But I think my guttural is it's always best to meet face to face and have the opportunity to look eye to eye to somebody, including each other on the committee, to make a decision. So I'm open to suggestions.
I say face to face. It's important, it's critical, so I know that's a short window of time, but we should probably meet in person, or I don't know if it can be arranged on video conference or something to make it easier on people.
Yeah, I think if we have the information before the presentation so that we can ask intelligent questions, and maybe even if we have the information before, we can provide the questions that we have so that during the presentation, people are prepared rather than coming in cold and are asking the questions without having any information. That's my preference.
Okay, so how I'm just pushing this agenda item along. Could we have a presentation made by Claire Matrix and the California Lawyers Association on the 22nd of February or March?
Also, remember that we're using Claire Matrix and California Lawyer Association as illustrations, basically. Even if Claire Matrix comes and does a presentation, I don't think that the board is going to accept that particular group as a recommendation at this point.
I understand that, but they would give
Yeah,
us,
I don't think we can't.
that would be a model. And so, but that would.
Correct.
And I think everyone knows, just because they're making a presentation does not mean we're recommending Claire Matrix. We're not recommending the California Lawyers Association model, but we want to we're doing this for informational purposes, and let's see what we can get from that, and then we can make a more intelligent decision. So go ahead, Donna.
I apologize. I certainly can't make any commitments on behalf of California Lawyers Association if they would be able to make a presentation of any sort. I mean, it was a lot of information gathering that they were doing sort of from us wanting to understand what the program was. But I'm sure they'd probably be able to, send somebody to answer questions or to sort of talk about sort of preliminary interests that they might have. We can follow up with that. And just a reminder, we need to notice the meeting, so it would have to be more than 10 days out from today.
So 10 days from now would be, oh gosh, forgot about that. So we're thinking like maybe March 1st, right? Is that correct?
That's right.
We could do it March 1st.
Yeah, this is Andy. I have a question.
Yes, Andy.
Why the California? I mean, does it have to be the California Lawyers Association?
No,
or
it
can
does
be
not.
A
We're
wholly,
just using that as an example.
A newly created or okay. I mean, creating our own.
No,
or
it's just
creating
as an
something separate and
example.
new. That,
In answer to your question,
okay.
Andy, no. It's just, like I said, this is not a commitment to the California Lawyers Association or Claire Matrix or anybody. In fact, if we can come up with a third party, that'd be fine. But those are the only two that have been mentioned to me, and I'm just trying to get these two organizations that we've had some discussions with to at least give us their perspective and their thoughts on it for us to make somewhat of an intelligent decision on whether to lift out or contract out. So,
I have a question, Michelle. Does your team have an opinion about what would be best for the clients of the state bar that you currently have?
good question.
I have not asked the staff directly about if they have a preference which way we go with this.
Okay.
Do you have an opinion?
Yeah, how do you feel about it?
Does Michelle have an opinion?
I think we can make it work both ways. I think we'll be able to, whichever way we end up going, we'll be able to create something that'll be successful and supportive. It's the contracting out part does have a lot more moving parts than it would be the lift out. I think the lift out would be definitely the most continuity because we would be able to use the same human beings, not just the same structure even, but same group facilitators, potentially same staff, in terms of like clinical rehabilitation coordinators. Potentially, we don't know if someone would want to go work for that organization, but it could be an option.
Okay.
Did the board express, sorry, Justin here, did the board express a leaning towards either option, or is this truly a, hey, come with a recommendation?
The board,
Donna,
the
or anyone
board, yeah, thank you, Justin. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
The board did not, in fact, express a preference one way or the other. They felt like they didn't yet have enough information. And I think when we presented it to them, we said that we would come back to them because we didn't think we could provide them with enough information at that point. And that we were going to ask them to make this decision in March. And so they did not express a preference either way. They want to hear your recommendation.
Sorry, you cut off.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it back. They wanted to hear your recommendation and the recommendations from staff and make a decision without preconceived notions at the March meeting.
Got it. Thank you.
I have a comment.
Yes.
This is Terry. Sorry,
Terry.
I shouldn't
Terry.
have taken that bite off that sandwich. Is there any way that we can do a preliminary recommendation to gather all the information that we need? And can we extend the deadline? I just feel like it's a big push.
I don't think there's a way to extend the deadline beyond the 15th. We've been told the 15th is the day they're going to make a decision, and we have to get that on calendar. So that being said, we're looking at the 1st to try to meet, okay? And to do that, staff, Michelle or Donna, powers it may be, need to get a hold of, well, we have Claire Matrix on the line, and then we also need to get a hold of the California Lawyers Association and see if they can make a presentation. We have, if we're scheduling a meeting on the 1st of March, which is a Friday, what time is the meeting? I'm in San Francisco, so I have to fly back that morning. And then I have a hearing at 11:20 with a judge. So that'll take me 2 hours. I might have to cancel that if I can work around that. But if we can make it on Friday after 12 o'clock, maybe we can make that work. And I don't have to be here, but I'd like to be here. Can everybody make Friday the 1st?
This is Justin. I'll be in LA. I'll be able to maybe do something in the afternoon, but I have depositions that whole day.
Okay, so if by afternoon,
the later the better for me.
The later the better?
The later in the afternoon, the better for me.
Is 2 o'clock a good?
That's just one person.
See, it's Friday, so we have Friday traffic. It's storming. 3 inches of rain are coming down. No, I'm just teasing you. Let's see, you would like a 4 o'clock meeting? Late in the afternoon is shooting for?
Hi, this is Terry. I can make a 4 o'clock, but I could be on a voice.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Kelly, can you do 4 o'clock?
I should be able to do 4 o'clock. It'll be voice.
Okay, that's fine. And then Justin, you
This is Andy. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Andy. Can you make 4 o'clock?
Yeah, that's fine for me.
Okay, Denise Nelson.
Yes, absolutely. So the 4 p.m. on the 1st.
Okay.
Perfect.
And then somebody was going to have to get a hold of the 1st. It's on the 1st, Friday the 1st, March 1st.
No, I said 4 p.m. on the 1st. Yeah.
Right. And then
Correct.
somebody's going to have to get a hold of Donna, thank you, of the California Lawyers Association. So we have a meeting, all right? 4 o'clock here. I want everybody to be able to vote on this. So if you're going to be going by voice, give notice to Jennifer right now. Terry, you're going to do voice. Kelly's going to do voice.
Not just letting her know, but also email her now with your address of where you'll be calling from.
Yeah, where you go, because that's required by law. So you got to give Jennifer.
Should I ask right now?
Yeah.
I mean, can we do that, Donna? Get the addresses of the people who will be calling in, so we. Okay, so everyone who's calling in, please email me the addresses today. And if it's March 1st, do we need to post the agenda by today?
But Monday or Tuesday we can do it. We have 10 days, right?
And at a minimum, Claire, the Matrix Foundation is going to be able to give us some information in writing before the presentation.
We're going to try to get. Did you hear that, Claire? I mean, Denise.
We have to have the
Yes,
information.
absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
I have a question.
Yes.
That I don't know if Michelle and Donna know, but what percentage right now looks like it's mandatory versus voluntary?
We've got the numbers, so it's
Yeah, 4 o'clock. I can definitely do 4 o'clock.
What are you referring to?
The mandatory versus voluntary, the numbers, like to know how much would be lifted out if it was lifted out?
Oh, got it.
We can bring that to that meeting.
Okay. Yeah, anything we can get ahead of time to get briefed would be helpful.
Can you be there? You should be here too.
No, I definitely, absolutely. I will try to be here. Okay, so pushing this agenda item along, because this is the most important thing. We're meeting the 1st of March, Friday, 4 p.m. here. Those of you who are going to be attending by telephonically need to email your address and your phone number to Jennifer so she can put it down so your vote counts, okay? It's also agreed that both staff, Claire Matrix, and hopefully the California Lawyers Association provide us any written material in advance so that we can read up on it ahead of time and ask relatively intelligent questions. Did I miss anything? Okay. I'm turning it back over to you, Michelle.
Well, I think that's it for that item. Unless anybody has any other questions or comments, that's our discussion of Appendix I implementation plan for today, to be continued.
Okay, what?
And
Go ahead.
just FYI, and I know this will make everyone happy, the meeting on the 1st will not be able to be webcast because we are webcasting the meeting of the Council on Access and Fairness that day.
I'm brokenhearted.
I figured you might be.
So,
So we might be meeting either in another room on this floor or over in the lap office.
Their meeting.
No close-ups.
Their meeting in 2C&D.
Okay, so
now,
we'll send out.
just so everyone understands, once we have this meeting on the 1st, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, Donna, you would like us to have a decision of whether we lift or contract out from, and it has nothing to do with Claire Matrix, California Lawyers Association, or the Stuart Shea Group, whatever it is, whoever it is there. All right? And we're just going to be making a recommendation one way or the other, what our preference is. Actually, it's going to be a guttural probably thing for us to make a decision because we may not have a lot of the, what Kelly and Tracy have mentioned, the guttural nitty-gritty facts, costs, timing, so forth and so on.
I think then we should, is there any way, do you think, that we could get a notion of the fiscal impact of one versus the other?
So the problem is,
You're not on?
am I on now?
Yeah.
So the problem is, for the contract out model, at the very least, we would certainly need to do a request for proposal. And, we could, in that request for proposal, identify how much money that is available.
Right.
And the services that we're seeking to have somebody provide, and get bids from entities and see who can provide all or the majority of those services. But until we do that RFP, I can't guarantee to you that somebody will do it for the amount of money that we have.
I have one.
We're losing you on the, can't hear you.
We're gonna need to do that,
Okay.
though.
Whoever's speaking need to push your button and get their light lit.
Oh, I don't know if they finished hearing what Donna had to say before I start. My only last comment is that piece where, Michelle, you were asked whether or not you had asked our current clinicians about their opinion. I think it's important. I just like to get their input because we're talking about impacting people's livelihood at some point, and I think the more information that we give them, the better they'll be able to figure out their own lives, because we're talking about, we don't know. I don't know logistically where this place is, and people traveling needs and stuff like that. So I just think, the human side says we should really involve them in some kind of way. Just ask the question, what their preference is, and because something's going to be done that's going to impact them. And I just think that's very, very fair to give them as much information and find out their opinions before we it won't impact whether or not we make the decisions, but it's a additional piece of data that I think that will help.
Okay. Any other discussion on this matter?
I have another question.
Yes, Jennifer.
So if it's contracted out, does that mean that the 8 current LAP employees will no longer work in LAP?
Don't know, right? Probably not, but I don't know.
And that'll be part of the discussion.
That'll be part of the discussion. That's right. Anything else? Being that there's no other business, do I hear a motion to adjourn? Do I have a second? Phil?
Second.
Thank you, Ann. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. one of the surgery centers I worked at was in a medical building in Encino, which is Central Illinois, and they just switched over to a machine at the, when you go in and out. So there's no longer a person sitting in the house there, and this woman was in tears last week. no jobs, out of a job. See, that's what happens as time goes on with these things, you know. And nobody thinks about, you know, they just want to save money. So
Oh, yeah, he was really good. That's really, yeah. I'm glad, yeah.
We had, our vendor who's doing our case management system for admissions, use that interactive tool with your phone. We saw that, we're like, okay, we need that.
Yeah.
Because